The wind swept across the desolate plains as Ethan Mallory, a solitary rancher in his mid-40s, rode his horse toward the small, dilapidated shack on the edge of town. He had spent years alone, tending to his land, raising cattle, and avoiding the town's gossip like the plague. The townsfolk whispered about him how a man so capable, strong, and rugged could live without companionship, yet Ethan never cared. What drove him wasn't loneliness but control over his world, a world where nothing ever hurt him until today. He had heard rumors of a girl, barely 13, whose father, a drunkard named Harold Crane, had sold her for a handful of coins to settle his bar debts. The thought made Ethan's stomach churn, but not for the reasons others might expect. There was no heroism in him. He simply didn't like injustice. He had paid no attention to people's opinions before, and he wouldn't start now. The shack smelled of rot and stale whiskey. Inside, amidst broken furniture and scattered bottles, sat the girl. Her hair hung in tangled waves around her small face, her eyes wide, cautious yet strikingly aware. She flinched when Ethan stepped closer, but there was a resilience in her posture that piqued his curiosity. She didn't speak and she didn't flinch at the sharp words of her father, as if she had been numb to the world all her life. Everyone assumed she was deaf. Her father claimed she couldn't hear, and the town had never bothered to check. Ethan didn't need words. He knew how to read people, the subtle movements of their hands, the tension in their shoulders, the flicker of their eyes. He extended a hand. The girl looked at it, hesitant, then slowly placed her small hand in his. There was a chill that ran through him, not because of fear, but because of something unspoken. Between them, something that would change both of their lives forever. The journey back to the ranch was silent, yet Ethan felt her observing him every detail. He had expected fear, confusion, perhaps even gratitude, but there was none of that. Instead, there was a spark, a quiet defiance that unsettled him in ways he had never known. Over the following days, he began teaching her small tasks around the ranch, feeding the horses, gathering eggs, mending fences. He used gestures, crude drawings, and simple notes to communicate, convinced she couldn't hear him. Then came the evening when Ethan discovered the truth. He had been scolding the cattle, frustrated with their stubbornness, when he muttered angrily under his breath, "If you can't behave, I swear I'll—" He trailed off, noticing movement out of the corner of his eye. The girl, sitting on the porch, tilted her head slightly, and a subtle smile tugged at her lips. She repeated his words exactly, mimicking the inflection perfectly, though her lips didn't move as he had thought. Ethan froze, a cold realization settling over him. She had heard everything. Panic, guilt, and awe collided within him. For years he had assumed her deafness, treating her with a combination of patience and distance. Yet here was a child who had been silently absorbing his every word, every emotion, every moment he thought was private. The implications were staggering. How much had she understood of her father's drunken tirades, the townspeople's whispers, the quiet loneliness in Ethan's own voice? From that night onward, the dynamic shifted. Ethan found himself speaking more deliberately, watching his tone, careful to hide his vulnerabilities. The girl, whose name he learned was Lila, watched him, listening, learning, and somehow teaching him at the same time. She understood his gestures, his expressions, his unspoken thoughts. She became both a mirror and a mystery. As days turned into weeks, Ethan's world transformed. The ranch, once a place of solitude and silent toil, became a stage of interaction, learning, and subtle discovery. Lila, with her uncanny ability to absorb sound in ways no one else had realized, began communicating through a combination of signs, gestures, and mimicked speech. They learned each other's language, a quiet, profound connection that bypassed words entirely. But beneath the growing bond, a tension lingered. The town still whispered, still judged, still looked down on Ethan for taking in the deaf girl. And yet, Ethan felt a strange pride, a connection that defied societal norms. The realization that Lila could hear everything, the hidden world she had silently navigated, was both terrifying and beautiful. One stormy night, as thunder rolled across the plains, Ethan found her standing at the barn's doorway, listening. He realized then that she wasn't just hearing, she was understanding. Not just words, but intentions, emotions, the subtle layers of meaning that most people took years to learn. And Ethan, for the first time in decades, felt the weight of responsibility, not just as her guardian, but as someone who had inadvertently misjudged the world she inhabited. Their story was only beginning, and neither of them realized how far it would go, how much it would challenge them, or how deeply it would bond them in ways that neither the loneliness of a ranch nor the cruelty of the past could ever undo. The following morning, sunlight spilled over the ranch, illuminating dust motes that danced in the golden glow. Ethan awoke to find Lila already moving about the stables, her small hands deftly brushing down the horses, feeding the calves with precision and care. Watching her, he realized she had adapted quickly, far quicker than he had ever expected of anyone, let alone a girl he had assumed to be helpless. Her hearing had changed everything. Small, subtle moments revealed that she understood more than words could convey. When Ethan muttered his frustrations under his breath, she would glance at him with a knowing look, an almost imperceptible tilt of the head, acknowledging his emotions before he even acted. It unnerved him at first, but gradually it became a comfort. She wasn't just listening, she was connecting, responding, and helping him navigate the isolation he had once prized. The town's judgment persisted. People whispered about the girl's past, about Ethan's choice to rescue her, about what it meant to live with a child no one had bothered to protect. Yet Ethan ignored them. His priority was simple: survival. For both of them, and slowly, something unexpected blossomed: trust. Lila learned to trust him, and he, in turn, began to trust her in ways he hadn't trusted another human being in years. One evening, as a fierce storm approached, Ethan and Lila sat on the porch. He spoke aloud, more to himself than anyone else, confessing fears he had long buried. "I've spent my life thinking I was strong alone," he murmured. "But maybe I wasn't. Not really." Lila, silent but attentive, placed her hand over his, a gesture of solidarity. Then, in a soft voice that mirrored his own, she said, "You don't have to be alone anymore." The words struck him like lightning. She had heard him all along, understood him all along, yet had waited silently for him to admit the truth. Ethan felt a rare vulnerability, a crack in the armor he had built around himself for decades, and as the storm raged around them, a new connection solidified, a bond born of trauma, trust, and unspoken understanding. Over time, Lila's talents became apparent in ways Ethan never anticipated. She could anticipate the cattle's movements, understand their moods, and respond to the smallest sounds in the barn that he had never noticed. She became indispensable, not just as a helper, but as a partner in the rhythm of ranch life. The once lonely rancher found himself laughing, teaching, learning, and sometimes arguing with a child who seemed older than her years. Yet danger lurked. The girl's father had not forgotten the coins he had received for her, nor the town's scorn heaped upon them both. Threats, subtle and not so subtle, reminded Ethan that the world outside his ranch still existed, still wanted to take and still judged. But with Lila's insight, her listening, and her uncanny understanding of subtle signals, they were prepared. Together they learned to navigate not just the physical challenges of the ranch, but the emotional and societal hurdles they faced. Months turned into seasons. Spring's bloom brought a sense of renewal, and the ranch transformed from a place of mere survival into a home. Ethan's solitude dissolved, replaced with companionship, laughter, and an understanding deeper than words. Lila, once presumed helpless, thrived. Her hearing, once hidden and assumed absent, became a bridge to the world she had been denied. She taught Ethan that life could be shared, that trust could be profound, and that strength often came from connection, not isolation. As the sun set over the endless plains, painting the sky in fiery oranges and soft purples, Ethan realized something he hadn't admitted to himself before. He had been lonely. Yes, but not because he lacked people. He had been lonely because he had never met someone who truly heard him. And now in Lila he had found not just a girl, but a mirror, a companion, and a soul who understood the silent language of his heart. Their story was one of redemption, trust, and revelation. The ranch, once a monument to solitude, had become a testament to resilience and the hidden power of listening. And though the world outside continued to whisper and judge, Ethan and Lila knew the truth. Some bonds are unbreakable, forged not by words alone, but by understanding, patience, and the courage to see beyond appearances. And as the stars blanketed the night sky, Ethan whispered to Lila, "We're in this together. Always." She smiled, and for the first time in years he truly believed it.